find my notes. Good evening, welcome to the June second session. We're gonna start the meeting at 7:08 p.m. and start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we get started, I would like to make official note of the board's executive session this evening, which occurred today, June 2nd, 2025, to discuss the confidential safety report, Confidential Act 93 Central Office Evaluation and Subsequent Salary Adjustment Report, to relay and discuss legal matters, and to meet with a new staff member. Okay, let's get started. Hard to believe, but this is our last week of school. I know that all the people over there understand what that's like, but I just want to publicly thank all of the teachers and staff that have worked tirelessly this year to make this year a memorable and meaningful experience for students and families. I want to thank them, thank our administrators for all their hard work. Lots of hours, lots of evenings, lots of time away from their families. So, administrators, thank you for all that you do. I also want to thank the board. Your support can't be overstated. Your attention and diligence in helping our district be the best it can be is certainly noteworthy. So, at the end of the year, it's a good time to express gratitude and say thank you. So, board, thank you as well. And finally, I just want to thank our parents whose support of the district is impressive. I think Dr. Turk said at the junior high, the reason why we're so good is really because of the community and the parents. It's a team effort here at Riverview. Everybody pitches in, and because of that, we have a really awesome school district. Everybody's looking out for each other and working as a team. So I'm certainly grateful for that. It's a good time to say that and celebrate that. We have a great school community and a great school district. Certainly one I'm extremely proud of. Okay, that's all I have to say about that. We have an audacious meeting tonight, so let's jump right in with a spring athletics wrap up. Normally that would be given by Mr. Carter, but he was at the baseball game. I'm sorry to report that we lost 5-3. It's a really close game. We were competitive. And we were the underdogs, and everybody was saying that the boys did a really impressive job up in Erie today. So nothing to hang your head about. They certainly put up quite a resistance, quite a fight. So, Mr. Hewitt, you want to give the report? Or come on up. Come up to that mic. If you could just speak into that microphone, that'd be better. Thanks, man.
Good. Thank you for giving the baseball score. I was going to get that. Andre said that in the last inning, their right fielder made a heck of a catch because we were coming back there at the end of the game. I guess it's a great catch for the staff. So next year. All right. So I will start with the athletic report that Mr. Carter gave me. The baseball team, as we know, had a great season. They finished third in Whitfields, Section 2A, and made it to the state round, as we were just talking about, where they lost to Mercyhurst Prep. They played at Mercyhurst University in a neutral site game. Insert sarcasm there.
A neutral site.
A neutral.
It was supposed to be neutral. I wasn't sure how the PIAA was supposed to be. I wasn't sure if the first round was near like the higher rank.
It was across the street from their school.
Yeah, that wasn't very equitable. They walked to the game.
The junior high baseball team also had a great season. They played 13 games. They had great experience playing against larger schools, higher sections that didn't really see in Section 2A. Note about the junior high baseball team, they didn't have been invited to play in the national conference next year. Andre is waiting confirmation from their board as of June meeting. Maybe from this board, not sure. A board waiting confirmation. Track and field had another tremendous season. The boys won the Whitfield section. At the Whitfield Championship with Silver Rock, got 17 medals. At the PIAA Championships in Shippensburg, we had 5 medals. Specifically, at Whitfield, Julia Grun and the javelin got 3rd place and set a new school record of 124 feet 1 inch, which beat the 116 feet 4 inch record set in 1983. Matt Morgan got 2nd place in the javelin. Mike Ivy, 4th place in the 800. Hayden Levy in the triple jump got 7th place, and Katie Trosh got 8th place in the 400. In the relays at Whitfield, our girls team of Lily Bauer, Blake Huffman, Katie Trosh, and Katerina Sandus got 3rd place and set a new school record, 4 minutes, 3 seconds, 3.95 seconds, which beat the old record, which was the record set this year of 4 minutes, 9 seconds. 1600 meter relay, Prince Cogan, Mike Ivy, Trent Johnson, and Levi Rubis got 5th place, and the 3200 relay, Chris Barnes, Holden Beasley, Mike Ivy, and Ashton Saunders got 3rd place. The medals that we got at the PIAA Championships, Mike Ivy got 8th place in the 800 meters, and the girls 4x4 relay of Lily Bauer, Blake Huffman, Julie Trosh, Katerina Sandus, in 8th place. It was a great year for the track team. And it's still pretty crazy how volleyball team had a great season. 2 scrimmages, 13 games played. I don't have the records trying to do those, but it's great. Volleyball has gotten very popular in the last couple of years with quite a few girls for the junior high and high school team. So that program is moving in the right direction. It's great. I love volleyball. All right, our clubs and activities. I do not have an update for every single club since the last update last month. A lot of the shutdown the last month. But the art club got their free little art gallery. It's up and running. So you come down to the high school, it's right on the front door. It's a cute little thing. Right to the left there. It's located right at those front doors. A huge thank you to David Maynard for his tech ed skills, because they built that little cabinet in Mr. Garrison's class to use it for gallery. The gaming club was very successful this year. Brand new club had their final session last week. I want to see this point that they are going to continue over the summer. So I anticipate that club growing over the next several years. GSA with Mr. Carlin had their final meeting of elections. The president next year will be Sophie Myers, the vice president Emily Chen, treasurer Leila Kanan, and secretary Corbin Cooper. After a series of meetings about the state of LGBTQ plus life under our current political realities, they decided to have an upbeat meeting to talk about what is good in our lives. Both said that they felt safe and respected by staff and most kids. They were grateful for the support they get from the school and faculty and staff. They are glad to have a safe place to have open discussions and be who they are without fear of being marginalized. They also expressed gratitude for the other members of the GSA who have made it possible to feel proud of who they are and feel welcomed and loved. They may worry about life in the outside world, feel safe and respected here at Riverview, and that gives them hope. They're going to have one final social meeting tomorrow after school to celebrate and share some good-hearted fellowship. Our junior class, PJAS, had 9 students competing at the state PJAS competition. Elizabeth Walken, Anna Murphy, Josh Perkovich, Rebecca Batsek, Iris Versoff, Elise Bear, Young Chen, and Nick Pencroft. And Rocco Brown. 6 of those students, Elizabeth, Penelope, Joss, Elise, Young, and Rocco, earned first awards for the projects at the state level, even with a higher level of expectation from the judges. Additionally, Elise and Joss both earned perfect score awards, and Rocco Brown earned a scholarship award to attend Penn State, as well as recognition for having competed at the state level for the past 4 years. We're very proud of those guys. The National Honor Society picked up their graduation course this last week. Senior class held their senior lunch, had a lot of fun. We had to do it inside because the weather wasn't great last Friday, 2 Fridays ago. Next up was today, the senior breakfast, and the practice was probably the best practice we've had in quite a few years. It was a little bit larger of a class. They listened really well, got in, got out, got their caps and gowns, and we'll see them on Thursday. Student council held its last meeting of the year, elected officers for next year, President Rosalina Scola, Vice President Grace Johnson, Secretary Nico Scola, and Treasurer and Emily Strike. Sweet little Scola. Yearbook, graduation was their last day in the cover. They'll submit everything to the publisher, and distribution occurs when we return from the fall. Stage Band held their concert on May 29th. It's a great concert if you were here. The Riverview is still a great concert. The Raider Band performed in Oakmont Verona on the Memorial Day Parade, and they were at the last relay of life on Saturday. Sports and entertainment management classes, fourth girls gala event on the 28th from 6:30 to 8:30 in high school cafeteria. The girls in grades 4, 5, and 6, either from Penn Sugar Burn. Each girl attendance must be accompanied by an adult. The evening included desserts, drinks, photo booth, DJ, raffles, and a favor. And everything I heard about it, it's wonderful. Okay. And the kids, that's one point for the kids, really, the ones that kids in that class, they do that whole thing. The gift is not so many updates other than to say that there's something that, come to the 7-Eleven award ceremony. That's basically the gist of the joy of the night, where Dr. McNally puts together presentations and slideshows for everything that different gifted programs did. But to point out the big point that night is the Junior Book Awards. Vincent Del Rosso won the Rensselaer. Rocco Brown got the Al Shalom. Rachel Carson Award went to Claire Simon. The Xerox Award went to Emily Chen. The Frederick Douglass Student Yankee Award went to Rocco Brown. The George Eastern Young Leaders, Grace Johnson. The Brown Award went to Tatum Grimes, and the Special Achievement Award went to Wilson Score. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I know, let's see. We had, let's do Dr. Z next. The best field day weather that ever was today. The best weather ever.
Yeah, like that. Yes. Let's start with kindergarten orientation was held about a week and a half ago. We had our parents here and all the kindergartners go to all 3 kindergarten classrooms, and we currently have 53, I think, kindergartners for next year. May is the month where classes go on field trips. First grade went to Beechwood Farm, second grade Bryant Theater, third grade Kerr Museum, fourth grade Holy Economy, and of course, 6th grade at the Torrid Mines. So that's the annual event there. A lot of year-end parent events. 2nd grade had their annual vocabulary parade. Kindergarten had their program on the 22nd. Last Friday, 5th grade battle of the book, 4th grade U.S. dates program, and the author show for 1st grade is coming up on the 4th of June. As Dr. English said. And then last Friday was our 6th grade celebration, which was fantastic. It sort of looked like the Oscars in here last Friday, and it was tremendous. These benches were donated by Dr. Stoner, 6th grade parents, so those will be added to the benches out front. So that's why you see the big bows on those. So that was very generous of him. Today was field day down at Riverside Park, and that went very, very well. Tomorrow is our Willis Carnival to celebrate our kids being very respectful and responsible, and that will be held tomorrow afternoon. Then on Wednesday, sorry, my day's confused. That'll be our move up day where our kids will move up, their new teacher and their classmates in the morning, and then of course we'll finish out with our clap out, which we did a clap out today. Appreciate the high school principals. So we had all of our former 10th Street students come through.
Made it every day.
They did awesome.
Every day.
So want to acknowledge them as well. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. C. Dr. M. Round 7.
We too also finished up some of our field trips. 4th grade finished, they went to Torrid Mines today. They all came back, don't worry. A little tight, good thing they're shorter 4th graders. Dr. Favo did an activity with our 2nd graders. Half of them went to Fox Chapel, and Fox Chapel came to us, and they did some STEAM activities. And then they went to the Lawrence Convention Center. That was through Discover Ed, so that was really great. Got to see how the kids interact with students they don't typically see. And we had our kindergarten screenings. Our orientation is in August, right before school starts, to catch all those kids that we always get in the summertime. We have 24 right now, and that's before summer. We've never had that many before summer. So that's pretty great. And we had our VIP breakfast, so students could bring one very important person with them. We had that on the 22nd, 23rd. Our field day was Friday. We got half of a really great day. So the morning was fabulous. The afternoon, we had to move inside, which was fine. We just lined the hallways and ran our relay races in the hallways and a couple in the gym. So it worked out great. Our kindergarten parade is June 3rd at 2 p.m. for the parents. The FBI came, they did a really great assembly for grades 3 through 6 on online safety and digital responsibility. I might be hitting up to have a parent night. I'm gonna talk to Dr. English, they have a separate parent one for next year. She did a really nice job. 6th grade won a kickball game against the faculty in October. We've been trying to have this kickball game every time it poured down rain. We had it today at 2 o'clock. Faculty was 11 to 7. But no one got hurt, no one broke a hip, we're all good, everything's fabulous. We had our clap out with the seniors, it was great, our teachers really appreciated it. And we have a closing assembly ceremony on Wednesday afternoon for the kids, and we go through everything we've done for the year. Mrs. Soilis did a fabulous job to put this PowerPoint together for us. And our 6th grade clap out is at 11:40 on the 5th. Thank you.
So many things, all fun things. So thank you for reporting. Anyone have any questions or things for the administrators? Okay, we have one last thing in the presentations to go over in part 3. As just to fill everybody in, in the last few months, we've gone through 3 different iterations and sort of research. You asked me to research and do a study on school start times. And so we had one on the 7th of April. I showed you some initial survey data that we put out to students and parents and teachers on May 5th. And this is my final presentation on the administration's final presentation. And then I will make a recommendation for school start time. So I'm just going to share the screen here because I want to show the slides on the recording. So give me 1 second. Okay. Can Jen and Brian and everyone at home, can you see that?
Can you make it full screen? Or no? I can see it, but it's just like in the smaller size.
All? Or
What's
can you
that?
see the whole screen? Can you see the whole screen now?
Like what I meant was like in presentation mode, like as opposed to the one with like all the toolbar stuff at the top.
In presentation mode, can you see it?
There we go. There we go. Yep.
All right, I'm not gonna go through all of these slides again because we've already gone through them a couple times. I'm gonna pick up a little bit to a quick recap of the follow-up parent data. So we did another survey. We sent it out to parents. We got a great response. We had 353 respondents, and these were the results. So when given the parameters and sort of the costs and benefits, the numbers from the parents in terms of what they would prefer, the numbers were yes, parents for 57 and 43. And so it came down pretty significantly from 2 to 1 initially, where the parents were kind of open to the idea. Once we laid out some of the, impacts, it's a little bit closer to 50-50 here. This was really surprising. I really was surprised that the students' survey data came out this way. I thought it would be the opposite, but, of all of the students, and this was grade 7 through 11, almost 70% of the students said they don't want any change to the start time. 32% said they're open to it. I went over the summary of those responses, so I'm not gonna go over that again. Parents, when they see this video, can kind of go over this, that's why I was sharing the screen. And we did a few more testimonials from some of the schools that had later start times. And we asked them, about some of the impacts. And some of the people working on the ground had a different story than some of the superintendents. They said the later start time really affected the teachers inviting the kids on this. And same things that some of our teachers said, the students missing more class time and the tech students and some other factors, they said were issues, but some really liked it, some didn't. I'm gonna go straight to this. This is where the slides change. This is the additional slides. Okay. First, I just want to go over the logistics and the costs. So this was about 3 rounds of research, 2 rounds of surveys to parents, staff, and students, scheduled building for all administrators, interviews with the administrators and the administrators in other districts, interviews and discussions with the police, crossing guards, the bus company, our food services provider, our current teachers, our labor unions, and multiple discussions with you, the board, and the community through public board meetings. I do want to say that we embarked on this with a truly open mind, totally objective here, because I never really looked into school start times. We never did that before. Maybe they did that in the past, but me, English has never, set out to learn about later school start times. So it's a really great process. I love doing research. I love gathering information. So for me, it was an enjoyable, hour, approximately 30 hours. I think the research study was warranted and it was certainly worth our time and energy. If there's possible potential benefits for our students, we can't turn our cheek to that. We have to look into that. We have to do everything we can to sort of weigh out costs and benefits for students. So as far as I'm concerned, it's time well spent. Okay. Whoops, let me go back here. Okay, the recommendation as of 6/2. First of all, I want to say we appreciate and acknowledge and agree. There's nobody in district, teachers, administrators, staff, nobody disagrees with the research and benefits associated with adolescent sleep. And that goes from information from Dr. Cox, who we spent to talk to directly, and Dr. Branson and the medical community. The insight and the guidance is unrefuted. We agree with the research. It's universally accepted, I think, by everybody at the school. At this time, after extensive and meticulous research, our recommendation is to keep the current start times intact. I'm going to go through why. There's a lot on this slide, so I apologize. I'll try to paraphrase, but big picture is when you look at the impacts across all of the areas, sports and athletics and teachers, schedules and crossing guards and safety and all of those things, it's just like the more we looked into it, the more we researched, it's just like the scales I kind of went in thinking, okay, start times, we can really look into this, the benefit of the kids, but the more we looked into it over those 3 months, just like the scale started to tip in the other direction, it's just more, I'd say the costs outweigh the benefits. A couple of the big things are, the crossing guards is sort of a big issue, a lot of the crossing guards do double duty, and we would lose crossing guards. I don't want to lose crossing guards. I think it's really great that we have crossing guards in this community. And, I want to keep them intact and make it easy for the crossing guards to keep our kids safe. That's a big one, and, that's one that came up through this last third of the research, like, we didn't even think about the crossing guards, but after more discussions with the police department and the crossing guards themselves, they're like, okay, this is an issue or an impact that we didn't initially consider. The other sort of big hit are the tech school students. We looked into the schedules. We can make the tech school work, okay? We can find dual credits for the courses they're taking at Forbes. The issue is though, over the 3 years that they attend Forbes, those students have 3 less classes than all the other students. And although we can make it work, maybe the Forbes students be like, yeah, we want that. But we don't think as an administrative team that that's equitable. We think that they should have access to the same number of classes that the other students have. And not to have the solution be to find, dual credits or online courses that the other students just don't have to deal with. So the other major impact is we have more kids active in sports and activities than other schools because the teachers and the coaches in those areas are all hooking into the same kids. So 66%, for instance, in the fall is a crazy number. We have over 400 kids at the high school, 66% of them are involved in some fall sport. So leaving early and missing class time is definitely impactful for a majority of our students. And I didn't even know that we used to have 7:55 and we brought it back to 7:40. I didn't know that till Antonio and Seth brought that up at the other meeting. And then when we looked into it, the reason why they brought it back is because they were missing too much class time at the end of the day. And when I looked into even, I'm not gonna say the other school in case I don't want to throw any other schools under the bus, but they're just like, yeah, in our school, we have AP physics, that kid missed 9 classes for their athletics and activities, and that's a lot of class for like really hard courses. Now, we were fortunate to not have a lot of those courses in the afternoon, but there's no doubt that they're gonna miss classes now. And, having a later start time exacerbates, that issue. The latest survey is close to 50-50 for parents. Majority of students just don't want it. And 81% of the teachers don't want it either. And the teachers didn't give, I was impressed with the teachers because they didn't give reasons that were, germane to their own lives when they gave feedback. The teachers really were focused on the students. They really truly just didn't believe it was the right choice for the kids. And they all said missing class time and activities and trying to catch students up all the time wasn't good across the majority of their classes. But there were certainly some other teachers that said that later start time is in a rush hour, if they're coming from the south, coming from other different places, and there were some family impacts. And I think we need to take, obviously, we make decisions in school. I say this all the time. Decisions for students, number one, okay? Staff, number 2, community, parents, number 3. If you can make decisions that hit all of those 3 areas, you're good. That's a grand slam home run. Unfortunately, sometimes in schools, it's really hard to hit a grand slam because, those things were already been thought of. But we try to hit all 3 factions, but in this case, we take what the teachers say because they're in the trenches working with the students day to day. So what they say certainly holds some weight, I would say, or holds water. Sorry, there's some nominal additional cost associated with food services, not much money, that's not a major impact. We talked a little bit about testimonials, and some of our students said that they're not gonna have as much time to get their work done. And a lot of the students in the survey mentioned that it would affect their work schedules and their ability to get to their younger students. especially the high school students said that. So for all of those reasons, and I know that not everybody's going to be happy with our administrative recommendation, but for all of those reasons, for all of those impacts, at this time, our administrative recommendation will just be this hold tight with the start times. Some future considerations I put in here, all schools in the Whitby will move to a later start time, probably be more, it would probably be easier, but currently there's only a couple schools that have later start times, but none of them were even as late as what we were considering. I felt like if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it. 5 or 10 minutes, you're gonna make much of an impact, you know, for the students sleeping. The other good thing about our students is, you know, we don't, like my students my kids at Pine Richland, they have to get on a bus and take like a half an hour, 40-minute ride. And so the start time, even if they did move it a little later, Pine Richland moved it to, I think, 7:40, they're like, oh, we're moving it to a later time, I'm like, oh, it's not that late. But, they moved it to a later time, but still my kids have to get up like, you know, really early, or to get on the bus and travel. Fortunately for us, we can keep a 7:40 start time, and a lot of our kids can either walk. Some of parents drive, but we're all with, they're both down within the 1 square mile, so they can get here quickly, and so a 7:40, I guess my point is a 7:40 start time for us is really not like a 7:40 start time for other schools. I think we should continue to monitor county and mandates. We're doing a really good job with this Riverside Lights project. We're about halfway there. That would certainly open up some opportunity to like sort of schedule, especially in the fall, as a big issue. You start to lose daylight. You could have some night games, which would loosen things up a little bit. I think we should focus on that. And I just want to thank the group of parents that came forward, and sort of initially engaged us in the process. I mean, I think it's a moral imperative to look at these things in order to make our school district better. Someone to thank them, and then this last slide is just thanking those involved. Those who did the research, the parents and constituents, the administrators. I know it was a lot of time for you guys. I appreciate the time. I think it was time well spent. And bus company, our athletic director, did a lot of work on this, and to all parents and teachers who participated in the survey, we had huge, a lot of respondents and a lot of people who are actively engaged in giving us information so we can make a responsible decision. So I wanted to thank them and thank our local police departments. Okay. And this is my last slide that I had Melissa work on. These are up to date slides. Some good pictures in there. Anyway. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Board members. Discussion, thoughts. What do you think?
Thank you for the time it took for everybody to do this.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead, Steph. Did you want to say something else? I interrupted you.
Oh, no. Just thank you guys for looking into that. How in depth you guys went. It seems like you guys have a pretty good, feel on this. So we really appreciate it. I appreciate it at least. So thank you.
So I think I appreciate the amount of time that went into this from all of you. Obviously you went into it very open-minded, looking at all aspects. I think, I really appreciate that. So, I think, as far as, for some people, this is a very black and white issue. The research says this, we should do that. But I think what all this has shown is that it's not black and white. There's a lot involved, that goes into this, and, we have to look at the whole picture. Some of my biggest concerns for the start times for the Forbes kids, kind of them losing, educational time in the school, and the adjustments that would have to be made for them. And just for all of our kids, the time that would be lost in the classroom because of other activities that they would have to be waiting for. Um, and there were other things that could have been worked around or figured out, like the crossing guards and, teacher schedules and stuff, but I think those are also important things to keep in mind. If we, losing two crossing guards or our crossing guards not being able to get to the second spot in time could, it's hard to find those positions, so that's kind of good. I've got a crossing guard here. Thank you very much. So I think, a lot of us, parents who brought this up and community and parents on board, we kind of bring our own perspective to, if we have kids in the district, if we live in the district and, kids walking by our businesses or we were students at one time, we all kind of take our own perspective of, what we think should happen or, as far as our own lives, but looking at the bigger picture, I think keeping things, where they are is probably the best overall at this point. If I looked at the Riverview community and the kids, and I thought kids that, a majority of our kids in crisis because they were, not sleeping and, this was an obvious issue, it might be a different story, but I look at Riverview kids and I see a lot of kids thriving. All of our award ceremonies and they're in athletics and they're in Model UN and they're thriving, many of them. They are making choices to, go to this, 0 hour, 7 a.m. AP world class like my kids did because they want to. So they're making choices, to fill their time. If anything, I think our kids are really overscheduled, but that's part of Riverview too, is they have all these opportunities to participate. And, so, I think looking at our school population in general, we have, kids that are thriving. And at our last meeting, I asked the administrators, but there was a student or students that were having, mental health issues or physical health issues that were related to school start times. Could an accommodation be made? And that's a yes. They absolutely would make that accommodation. So I wouldn't want anybody to think that, we're not taking the mental health of our students and the physical health of our students in mind with this, but if it is an issue, our administrators and our teachers are gonna work for those kids. So that's where I'm standing. I appreciate the administration, everybody's recommendation, so that's kind of where I stand about it.
Other thoughts?
I think I'll just kind of like, I live on Third Street, so I live near the high school and I can see the traffic. And I can't imagine if you, sit on my porch, I watch the traffic. And I can't imagine if you shifted that even 20 more minutes. The people who are using Third Street as a cut through for normal traffic at 8 o'clock in the morning is a mess. So you add in, now we're gonna have kids walking along the street, which is already scary. And then you can have more traffic with parents trying to get in there. I'm also someone who commutes from Oakland to Verona in the morning to Oakland. And if you move that by 20 minutes, that traffic at 8 o'clock is very different than traffic at 7:40 if I get out the door a little earlier. So I look at it from a community perspective of how does this impact the way that the flow of an already congested traffic situation gets even worse. So that would, I look at the safety part of it and that, and I'm concerned if we shift this and there's not crossing guards at those street, which is absolutely imperative. I watched the kids walk today, which is, again, I just want to say this is one of my favorite things to do. is when there's field day and I watch them all tromp down the hill and down Third Street. But that there were people in all those corners stop because if you spend time on Third Street, sometimes people don't stop. So there's my concern of how do we impact an already really packed grid with traffic. For me, it comes down to if one of the administrators come to us and said, you know, we're having this issue, and I think it would be really helpful if we moved it, there's so many kids who aren't getting it on time, or so many kids that we can't accommodate their needs, starting, you know, they need a later start time. I think I might feel differently, when I look at that list and 3/4 of the schools that you surveyed are 7:40 or earlier, or before 8 o'clock, it's hard, I mean, everybody knows, my kid probably lives the closest to the school, and I'm kicking him off the door at 7:33, cross my fingers, he can make it up the street, but that's part of what I say to him, your commitment is to get to school on time, you get to school on time, however that has to happen. And, you know, I understand the science and totally, I understand that part, I don't know that we're in a position right now, from my perspective, to make that change in a way that would be beneficial to enough people. I think we have to look at this, the 66% fit in the fall for athletics, and we're shifting, trying to shift all that around, and look at how we have to shift practice fields around even in our district is hard enough to find spaces for them to be. So what does that time adjustment do to that with 3 different organizations sharing field time sometimes, not just our district? So that's kind of where I come from on their side.
I know that I'm definitely, after hearing the scientific piece of it, I was definitely an advocate for the early start times. But I also, in saying that, I also need to be cognizant of the fact that when I was a student, that I was always vying for more time. And even as an adult, I'm vying for more time, right? We always want more hours in a day. But as a student, I know that even with AM classes, AM gym, I mean, we were coming in even earlier than the start time, even when it was later, or when it was set to what it is now, to make sure that we're getting in the courses that we needed to, or that we wanted to. And then also in saying that too, I also feel like, you know, the community has kind of spoken on this issue. It's one thing to advocate for it, it's one thing to see scientific data, but it's another thing to also hear our constituents as elected officials, but also just other people in the community that are actually living this day to day. And that don't really necessarily want to focus on going to jive with the community as a whole, as a school community, I should say, and then with the administrators to the staff, then we kind of have to respect that. And I do know that, you know, parents are going to be upset, there's going to be people on both sides of this. And I don't think that this conversation has to be over necessarily. Maybe there's conversations to be had regarding, you know, elementary start times. Or I know that we used to stagger the senior, junior high school, that the senior high came in, I think like 5 minutes or 10 minutes earlier than the senior high, than the junior high. So things like that, you know, we thought in the future, but I do think that there's probably a reason that we shifted to this, and it's needing those extra hours in the day, and so I get it. And thank you to the administration for the work that you guys put in on this. I mean, I know the amount of times that we heard about it in emails and, all of the presentations, all of our executive sessions, I mean, we've heard about it countless amount. So I can only imagine what they're doing behind the scenes to make sure that we are hearing about it and staying up to date on it. That's themselves, so thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online? Good. Okay, I put part 3
of the slides on the district website, so those at home, those watching the video, you can see part 1, part 2, part 3, all on the front page of the website. If anybody wants to go back, look at some of the data, look at the metrics. And I think Mr. Paris makes a good point. We can always come back to it. It was a good foundational sort of baseline. And like I said, I enjoyed it. I'm not sure everybody on the team enjoyed it, but I love doing research and like taking things into consideration, especially if the possible benefit at the end of that is you might be able to help kids. So, I think it was time well spent. So thank you. I also just want to say, I'm pretty impressed by the board and your discussion about this. Like I'm a part of other communities and other boards that are making lots of decisions or taking things into consideration for lots of reasons that don't have to do with the kids in the community. So I commend you for making the right decision, having the right discussion with the right set of priorities in mind. But I know for sure it's not happening everywhere. So thank you. Okay. Great discussion as always. Let's move into the first hearing of citizens. This is designated for agenda topics only. If you'd like to speak, sign in, come to the mic, state your name and address, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Keep in mind that the board does not typically respond to public comment, but rather takes their hearing into consideration for future governance. Also realize that all comments and meetings are being recorded. And we will have another meeting for all school related topics later in the meeting. Would anyone like to speak in our first hearing? So leisure. Yes. Okay, that microphone sort of like dips down a little bit. You might have to hold it up because I'm getting a little taller.
Hi, my name's Les Leisure. I live at Canterbury Court here in Oakmont. My granddaughter's in 9th grade. She started here at 10th Street in kindergarten. Speaking of school crossing guards, I'm sure you're aware of the fact there is a critical shortage. And as a result of that, I volunteered to my boss, the chief, to go out and work those. And I've worked them a couple of months. I've learned some things I want to share with you. And that sounds a little corny, but the truth of the matter is I have. First, parents of elementary students like us. I've got to tell you that some voters don't like us and a few don't see us. And we recently had one of the guards hit by a vehicle at 3rd and Halton Road. And as you know, they're out in all kinds of weather. And what really I want to bring to your attention is when you have a holiday or you have spring break, they don't get paid, okay? And so I was wondering, I did a little bit of math, and I'm not the best at it, but if you were to afford them 4 paid holidays during the school year, it would cost you about $440, which is really a drop in the bucket. The other half of that would be paid by the borough since it's a shared expense. And you know, whether you want to believe it or not, that hour in the morning, the hour in the afternoon, that are probably the most important employees in the borough because they're getting your kids to school and getting home safely in these key intersections. And it's dangerous sometimes, and it can be nerve-wracking. So I would just ask you to consider that. It's really peanuts. The other thing is, just want to mention real quick, and Mr. Hewitt went over all those things. There's a couple of things that I thought was very impressive. The high school students got to go to the History Center to, they did had a topic, and then they studied it, they wrote about it, and then they presented it to the board of the judges. And there was 5 schools there. All of them was much bigger than our schools. Mount Lebanon, Upper St. Clair, Peters Township. Only one had 7 students, okay? Riverview had 37 students there. And I had an opportunity to talk to Mr. Gustad, and I said to him, wow, you have 37 students. And his reply was this: I'm so proud of my kids. And that's why we had 37 kids there, to tell you the truth. And I go on about choir. I mean, I can remember a few years ago, you had a handful of students. Last month, you couldn't get them all on the stage. It was wonderful. So, I mean, they sang with their heart. No pun intended, but just their heart. And so I could go on and on and on. Here's my point. You're into your budgets. You know, you have taken education out of the 4 walls of the classroom and out into the world. you've really, I mean, that's very, very important. I think we see that and it enriches them and affords them opportunity to learn other things in other ways. So what I'm hoping is that, and when I leave, go home from these events, the one way I can sense this to say that to you is that I'm getting a good return on my investment. I'm 71 years old. I work 5 days a week, so I don't have money to waste. But we're not wasting money, and I hope you keep the level of education in the classroom and in the world outside of the classroom the same as it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Exactly 3 minutes, Mr. Lee. 700.
I did 3 times.
Impressive.
Please.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words as well. Thank you. Okay. Let's move into discussion and review of potential motion for approval for next week's voting meeting, starting with business and finance. Ms. Luber. Ms. Luber?
Yes, sir. For motion number 1 is the 2025-2026 final budget. Number 2, participation in the CEP Community Eligibility Program for the 25-26 school year. Number 3 is to approve the a la carte food prices for the 25-26 school year. Number 4 is to approve the cafeteria food prices for the 25-26 school year. Adult breakfast, $2.20, adult lunch, $5.10. Junior, senior, high tier lunch, $4.10. Junior, senior, high regular lunch, $3.10. Junior, senior, high breakfast, $1.60. Elementary lunch, $2.95. Elementary breakfast, $1.35. I will add that the breakfast prices are only for those who get an additional breakfast, because all breakfasts are free in addition. Number 5, capital project with Great Lakes Supply, CoStar's contract for our conveyor oven for the junior, senior high school cafeteria in the amount of $17,145. Number 6, capital project with Great Lakes Supply, CoStar's contract for our combi oven for the junior, senior high school cafeteria in the amount of $19,598. Number 7, capital project with Great Lakes Supply, CoStar's contract for our convection oven for the junior, senior high school cafeteria in the amount of $12,356. I might add that those 3 items are also included in our renovation project that will be happening not this summer, but next summer in the cafeteria. Those are 3 items that we can place now, and they can be moved during the reconstruction process. So they're being purchased now because we have, for lack of better terminology, some dead soldiers that are just sitting down there and they haven't worked for several years. So we're moving some things out and putting some new items in so we can better serve the population of our district. Number 8, we will approve tax collectors. Number 9, the Homestead Farmstead Act. Number 10 is the insurance for property casualty workers' compensation, interscholastic sports, and school board emissions, E&O insurance. Number 11 is to approve the board secretary appointment and financial obligations. And number 12 is a motion to close the 24-25 finances.
Before Ms. Luber gets into a budget presentation, are there any questions on any of the items before Ms. Luber goes into the open budget?
One quick question.
Sure.
What's the difference between the high tier lunch versus regular lunch? I don't recall seeing that before.
We've always had the high tier lunch. It's just a bougier lunch, I guess.
Is it just quantity, like more of something?
No, it's a specialty lunch. I wish Tim Sochi was here. He would be able to answer that. I apologize. But it's a specialty lunch. I wish there was a student here. Maybe they could answer. But it's a more expensive, higher tier lunch. Like if they make, Eric or Turk, if you have no idea.
Not gonna say that's what.
No, lunch, come on.
Smoked salmon.
Yes, smoked salmon, no, that's not like every. But they do have like teriyaki chicken and things like that they do serve that are higher tier lunch.
Also keep in mind that the lunches prices are up 10 cents. It's about a 10 cent. 5 to 10 cent.
I was just wondering like how many are taking advantage of that versus the regular. I'm just curious.
Well, the junior, senior high school that currently in this current year are CEP. So the junior, senior high regular lunch would have been, is currently at no cost. The tier lunch, what we were only charging an additional, I think, 50 cents. It's that lunch
It's for students that eat twice.
for the students that eat, and there are those students that put that in.
Okay.
So.
But
I was just curious because I know some people say that like some kids I've heard say like the regular lunch is like not enough. And so sometimes they'll get double or extra of something or whatever, you know what I mean? So I was curious if that high tier was like being taken advantage of or not.
well, why don't we get back, we can find that out, and we can, yeah, we'll email it to you. That's the way it should.
Or I guess how many kids even know that that's an option? Because maybe they don't even know that that's something they could be doing if it's only 50 cents more or whatever, you know?
You know, the pricing, everything is listed in the cafeteria when they run through. It's on the walls, it's on the.
Okay,
on the
it's
wall.
obvious.
Yeah,
Okay. I was just curious because I hadn't noticed that before. Stephanie, go ahead.
Yeah, I can't remember. Did we get a list of the things that they offer for school lunch? Like, I know we talked about that previously, but I didn't see anything in any emails or anything that updated us on what is actually offered as far as like, I don't know, everything.
Yeah, we haven't
Um,
gotten that detail yet.
all of the menus are listed on the website, but I can get all of them in an email and send them out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Luber, would you like to go into the details
Sure.
of the budget?
I have these documents and then I'll sit back down so I can be heard. I'm sorry. One minute, less.
You have, you don't, I should ask this electronically, I could share it.
I can say it's.
For those that aren't email personally, we will email you these documents.
I apologize, we discussed putting them on the website after the meeting. As you want.
Oh, yeah, we can do that too, we'll update all the documents on the website, yeah, that's even better.
On the documents that I've given the board, this is an updated version of the final budget summary. I have made the adjustments that we had discussed in the previous meeting with regards to moving around, the special ed director's salary. I did make a couple of additional, additions and reductions to the budget. In the proposed budget, we were out, we had expenditures of $28,450,000, and we had revenues that totaled $28,335,000. That included a 0.5591 increase to the millage, which equates to approximately $386. This final budget does also include the 0.5591 increase to the adjustments that I've listed on the sheet. We had an additional amount added to the curriculum. We had some new quotes that came in a little higher than we had originally planned for. Additionally, we had a resignation of a teacher that you will approve at the next board meeting, and that gives us the savings of salary and benefits, meaning retirement and social security. I did not adjust any of the healthcare to what the current employee has. The salary, social security, Medicare, and retirement was a savings of $20,000. So I added curriculum, an additional $20,000, and I reduced spending reduce expenditures by the resignation of 20,000. So that was a wash. Zero increase or decrease to the expenditures. On the revenue side, I took a deeper look into our interest earnings. As your business manager, I'm a little nervous about how rates are falling. I'm a little concerned about, what's happening in the world, with prices going up and tariffs and how the normal person, how we will be able to pay for everything. So my move today was to add some interest earnings on. I was very, I lowered it down a little bit based on the rates that have been lowered slowly but surely over the past few months by the feds. Additionally, when I arrived at Riverview, we had real estate taxes at a specific percentage of collection, which was placed into the PDE 2028 for the budgets. I've slowly been increasing that. I think the taxpayers of Riverview School District, they do pay their taxes for the most part. So what I did was I made a slight increase to the collection percentage that made up that $65,000 difference. This brings your expenditures, as I said, there was a wash to the curriculum and the resignation of the teacher. Brings your expenditures and keeps your expenditures at $28,450,000. With the additional interest earnings and the slight increase to collection on real estate taxes, that closes the gap of the $115,000 that was in the proposed budget. Therefore, your revenues increased to $28,450,000. Again, this does include a 0.5591 increase, which is approximately 2.23% of the 4% index that's allowable this year. That if you determined not to increase taxes by that 0.5591 mils, then we would be needing some cuts to the budget in the amount of $386,268. Now, if you remember in my preliminary budget presentation, we have a possible increase to basic and special ed, which the state has not passed the budget, but that small amount is only about $50,000. So when I back that out, I look at if this board wishes to not raise taxes, we are still looking for about $337,000. Now, I listed, considerations and possible cuts, for your consideration. But your director of finance's recommendation is to increase taxes by 0.5591 mils. Do I have any questions? Comments?
Yeah,
Concerns? Yes.
yeah, okay. So I asked this at the last meeting about our fund balance, and we talked about committed funds, unassigned, assigned funds, and non-spendable and unassigned. And I see here we have about 6 million in committed funds, which I brought this up last time. There was 6 million in committed funds when I started here 4 years ago. And we keep saying, oh, this is going to be used, this is going to be used. And, we were talking about putting windows at Burner 4 years ago, and they're still not in there. So, this, for me, it's hard for me to justify this, that, oh, these committed funds are there when they've been there. And not only have they been there, but our fund balance has increased. It's done nothing but increase. None of that money has actually gone out of there. So, and, each year we gain about 300,000 in interest rates due to this fund balance. Do we not? So, it's hard for me to justify not pulling out 300,000 of our fund balance to cover this.
I will note that we do have the renovation of the cafeteria coming up. When we bid that out this past year, the bids came in at around $1.4 million over budget, which is why we kind of we took a step back to look at the project itself. So
So-
again, if costs continue to soar, my concern is that we might not have a choice to pay, an additional million or 1.4, to do what we need to do to the cafeteria, to upgrade it.
what is
One of the
the
things.
cafeteria?
I'm sorry, so
What is the cost for the cafeteria?
I think at the time we were looking at, what was our original?
Budget, you all approved, tentative budget. Cafeteria of $1.5 million. As you recall, the bids came in at $2.4 million. We're currently redrawing those plans so that you can get down to the original cost, but certainly, I would say 3 really big projects coming out that we know are big ticket items is the junior senior high cafeteria. The burner windows still have, it's in there as a committed fund, but we're gonna have to do them in the next 5 years. We have the 10th Street gym floor that we need to put, we need to fix that street floor at some point. That's in the committed funds. And remember in the master planning study, depending on how the board moves towards that, since we are updating our current facilities, we'll be looking at through master planning over the next couple of years, how to match, spaces to sort of more modern programmatic needs. Some of those are, an auditorium, which is something we'll have to do down the road, but that's a $6 to $8 million venture. But in the near future, we talked about updating the junior senior high school STEM and arts wing, some more modern facilities. And that we don't know exactly what the price tag on that is, but you're looking at at least a couple million for that project, as you need to redraw the rooms and the spaces where they need to be. So those are some of the things on that sort of itemized list. I know that, we were hoping to get that cafeteria done this summer. Not maybe next summer, so I understand like having the money just kind of sit in there, and we don't want that, we don't want to spend it. But we also want to have a healthy reserve, and the auditors, I think, I'm comforted that the auditors feel like, our reserves are where they should be, where the recommended levels should be. And I wanna get-
I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is 300,000. We could,
Mhm.
we could use that. That's a drop in
Mhm.
the pond. That's a drop in the pond. And you're telling me 5 more years for the Werner windows? That was 4 years ago. We're going 10 years into the Werner windows. I'm just,
Yeah, no, I
so it's hard to justify this when it's just sitting there. 300,000, just cover it. Just cover it. So we don't have to raise taxes this year. We gain that in interest. It's just hard for me to understand this and justify it, honestly. You're
Yeah.
gonna go into a third year of raising taxes. It just doesn't make sense because it's there. I understand that we're committed, but like we're committed to keeping up with the Joneses. That's essentially what's been going on here. I understand we want to have modern things for our students and we want to give them everything we can, but we also have to be realistic and know what we can and can't do right now. I mean, honestly, we needed those windows 4 years ago, but instead we did the weight room. You know what I mean? Like each year there's $150,000 project that we're doing, and like that could have gone towards a teacher. That could have gone towards, just paying everybody rather than keeping up with the Joneses.
My concern with not raising taxes is that that's money that's lost forever. Because of Act One, you lose, you don't just you don't lose $386, you lose $386 for decades to come. And taking $386 out of the fund balance, when just a year ago, we were looking at replacing gas lines in the high school. We lost 2 days of school. That was a significant cost. The money in our fund balance, we have committed, we have some uncommitted funds, but those are for, the what ifs. What if an air handler goes down and we have to replace it and it's unrepairable? We do have some old air handlers. We have some old HVAC down at the high school, and those are eventually going to need replaced. That's just my concern. Your 386,000 for a 0.5591 increase in 10 years becomes 3.8 million. So my concern is that if you raise taxes just a little bit, the history of this district is, I don't think we've ever in the last 13 years raised taxes to the index. I think the board has been very kind and considerate and thoughtful in the process of building revenues in the district.
But nobody sees it that way. Nobody else sees it like, oh, you've been so kind, we haven't raised to the index. They see that we're raising taxes, you're increasing our tax base. Like, these people's pockets hurt too. So, if we could give them a break this year, that would be great. I mean, honestly, 300,000, you're telling me you can't spit up 380,000 and something comes up, that's all I have.
You have to agree with Seth. I think that when we talk about financial responsibility or fiscal responsibility, I think that in parts we do a really great job, but even tonight when we'll get to the school security resource officer. I brought this up in executive sessions to also talk about here, the fact that, we were paying an individual in our district stipend to do truancy and things like that, when that's a typical SRO kind of job. But we're not planning on having our SRO do that. We're planning on still using that stipend elsewhere. Those are the aspects where we could cut those funds. I know that that's not anywhere near our 300,000, but that's where it kind of gets into the waters of, okay, well, Steph makes a good point. We do gain this back in interest gained over the year, having that money in there. We do have uncommitted projects. Whether those projects will get off the ground is kind of to be determined, right? I mean, the kitchen aspect as well. Yeah, it's like 3.6 mil, but also at the same time, we may not see that kitchen renovation for the next however many years. So we're planning for where we may do bids again this summer and then they come back even higher because things haven't gone lower. I don't know where everyone else is shopping, but nothing else is lowering. So in my mind, I don't see it going down anytime soon. So to plan, yes, we need to plan for the future, but we also need to be mindful of the present. And when I'm looking at, the things that we're considering to cut, basic/special education, security guards, student activities, athletic supplies, dues and fees. Why do all three of these areas only affect our students? I mean, I get it that we can't change healthcare and things like that for our staff members, but then we just hired an extra maintenance person. We also hired, or we're being asked to hire additional people for technology. I mean, again, all of those facets could have been taken into consideration when we're being asked to raise it by 300,000. And so, I'm not saying that you guys didn't take that into consideration, because I know full well that you did. But then it leads me back to where Steph is saying, it does make sense in this instance to not raise them and to just leave that out.
So I understand where, um, Stephanie and Antonio are coming from with that, saying it's only 300,000, just pull it out and not raise taxes. I'm always trying to think not just of just this moment in time, but what is Riverview in 10 years or, 5 years? And thinking about the security of the district further down the road. Because when I got into the whole thing about going to board meetings and my involvement came when we had a deficit of $900,000. And we, for many of those years, didn't raise at all. Or just a small amount, we didn't ever went to the max, but we only raised a tiny amount. And then one year, all of a sudden, we're in this huge deficit. We can't raise taxes because of the index. And we are cutting the programs that matter to our kids. Music, art, nursing, counseling. I totally get saying this money is there, just take it out and we'll just stay even. But to your comment about where prices are going up, it is going up everywhere, and it's going up for school districts as well. And so I feel like, to say the schools should be the ones to say, we'll just, we're not gonna, we don't wanna have to deal with those costs and not have the funds to pay for those, or we're gonna pull them out of whatever, the bond. I'm just thinking of 5-10 years down the road. I just don't wanna see us getting in a situation where we are cutting really important things because the prices are going up. And I mean, they are going up, but we also want to keep Riverview growing. We want to keep it being appealing to new families coming in. We haven't ever gone to the max, but what we can do. So that's my worry with just not even just pulling the money out, but like Sheila said, you don't raise even just a little bit, you're losing that money year after year after year after year when your costs are going up year after year after year after year, and you've just taken out part of the base. So I get that, where that's coming from, but I'm just trying to think, how do we keep Riverview secure for the future? I think, talking about the fund balance staying, it's been the same for how many years? But that fund balance it's been used and added to and used and added. It's not like the money is just sitting there, right? We use it, and when, something in the budget happens where we have a little extra, we put it back, so we have that security. So it's not like that money is just sitting there doing absolutely nothing. We're using it, we're adding to it, so it's up and down. It's not just a straight across the board. So, I don't, whether it's, the 2.3% or, even, if it goes to 2 or to 1.5, but I'm concerned about not doing anything when we know prices are going up. I will add that we also have to be cognizant of the, complement ratio. I'll bring that up every year for the rest of my life. Until it gets back up to like the 86% that it was, several years ago, but it's down to 54%. So, my concern is that properties are not being assessed properly with the complement ratio.
And what is our current collection rate?
I have it at slightly over 96%. It's pretty high. It's the highest of any district I've ever worked in. I still feel that today.
Other thoughts?
Yeah, I would be definitely curious to hear our numbers.
I would just also have the concern of, if you don't raise it a small amount, then if we need to raise it 5% next year just to make ends meet, and we're only allowed to raise it 4%, then what? Then we're stuck making cuts of things that we don't want to cut. And I'd be concerned about not getting the interest on that 400,000 for years to come and so forth. So I just know for my own small household budget that I have as an example, like, I know anytime that I dip into savings to pay a bill, I regret it. It's, you want that interest, you want that safety net. And I realize it's a big safety net, but those dollars sitting there, like you said, are not the same dollars sitting there. They're used and replaced and used and replaced, and that's the sign of a smart admin, smart people in charge. So, I don't know, it's sure is tempting to just say, well, just use it. But, that makes me nervous.
I'll also add that money is there, also because a lot of the money we spent during COVID were COVID funds. So we were able to take the money that we didn't spend and put it there. Let's all pray that COVID never happens again, and the pandemic never happens again, but if it does, the district's ready. But I will say over the past few years, and all of our COVID funds are depleted, I would say 90% of our COVID funds are depleted. We still have a little bit of an extension on some that's paying for social workers and things like that, but those funds were spent on big ticket items in this district, and they were things that needed to be replaced, and those funds were then put in to your capital and your reserves.
Other thoughts, other members? Anyone at home?
No, but thank you for answering my questions and listening to me gripe. I appreciate it.
Well, this is what you're supposed to do, right? Oh, are we still sharing that? No, I don't think we are. Am I still sharing my screen at home?
No, I
you're
don't
not.
see it. We're just not up on the board behind you.
Okay, hold on. I think the board is pretty educated here in that, I think a lot of people think there's a lot of like fluff and, school budget is fairly straightforward. 85% of the school budget is just non-discretionary, non-negotiable costs. And then you have 15% that are sort of discretionary costs. But some of the things we talked about, what she talked about, that's paper and books and curriculum and things like that. Over the last 10 years, we've asked these folks to cut. in terms of a budget, I have never worked at a place that had more of a bare bones sort of student activities and sort of supplies budget than we have here. We are very conservative in terms of the budget. So, but the board, some of the board members who spoke tonight are correct. I mean, you have the only place to go is either you cut into programs or you cut into this sort of reserve amount of money. So we have these capital reserves, we have this fund balance, you want to keep 8% for just a rainy day fund, and we have our capital reserves for our projects. So that is the only place I think that you can go. So I applaud the board for knowing sort of like where the monies lie, you know. Other thoughts? Okay. Going once, going twice.
Very interesting.
Yes?
Thanks. I would say that, I would venture to say that like none of us are like thrilled with the circumstances. I don't know that any board is ever thrilled with the financial circumstances. I do think that Ms. Jacobs-Orhan brings forth a good point in that we cannot know what the future holds, but we certainly know it doesn't mean anything is going to cost less, because that's not how capitalism works. People don't lower prices. That doesn't happen. We have to pay what everybody else pays for most things, unless we can negotiate with like a larger group to get lower costs. And the list of those things is not very large, unfortunately. We also live in a time where curriculum will only become exorbitantly more expensive. And our unfunded mandates alone that cost time of admin that could be doing other things to serve our students is probably not able to be calculated. So I also, again, venture to say that any projects that we might need to do are not going to become less expensive as well, which only makes the idea of taking funds from any balance like a less prudent decision in the long run. We may all not be here when that decision comes back, but we will have left a very difficult circumstance for someone else.
Anyone else on the budget? Anyone in line with the budget?
I'll just say that I've always been in line with us, increasing a small amount, even if it's a quarter or, a half, a little bit, just to keep up with things each year. We're certainly not getting any more funding from state or federal sources. We never probably will, unless something significant changes. And history hasn't shown us that that's probably likely. So like everyone has said, nothing's getting cheaper. Things are only getting more expensive, and there's really very few places to get any extra funds from. So unfortunately, the only way, to balance things sometimes is to increase. But I think, like everyone has said, nothing is getting cheaper. So I can't imagine a world where, we would be surprised later by that. So unfortunately, like you said, nobody really wants to raise taxes, but I think that it's better to do so in very small increments over a longer stretch of time rather than to put it off and then one day have to raise it to the max because you haven't for the last few years. Or be in a situation where you can't make some improvements or some changes or things that you need to do because that reserve or that savings isn't there, or God forbid some something catastrophic happens, like the recent storm we had, something more significant and costly could have happened with maybe, that tree coming down at the high school the other way, and we would have had to have a lot of things to pay for to fix. And that's why you have that savings, in laying in wait there, and or capital improvements and things yet to come, which may or may not happen in all of our time, but we want those things for the length and wealth and health of the district long term. So that's just kind of my thoughts.
Thank you. Anyone else? Discussion? Okay, thank you, board. We will continue to be as fiscally conservative as we can. I think Sheila will tell you. And I think the administrators tell you, I think we take them back a Maureen McClure approach, which is funds are fungible. If you want something, where is it coming out of? So we're not adding a bunch of extra things. We're looking at cost neutral ways of better doing business, I think, and we'll continue to do that and be as responsible with our budget as we can on our end. So great discussion. Thank you. Okay, let's move into agreements, contracts, and resolutions. So there's a few items here. Most of them are typical annual things. There's one obviously new one, which we can discuss in a little detail if you so choose. First is our Forbes Road revenue anticipation. So essentially, Forbes takes a loan out to pay for business that needs to occur at Forbes for expenses. So this anticipation note in the amount of $19,125,000 is split amongst all of amongst Forbes itself and all the participating schools. So it basically just says, we have to sign that agreement to say we're going to pay our share, and all the other schools that belong to Forbes have to do the same. So the first one is our yearly revenue anticipation note. Second is an agreement with Huntington Protective Services beginning from July 1st to June 30th, 2028. This is for 2 armed school officers. And Ms. Newberg discussed that in a little bit of detail in her presentation. Third is an agreement for our rental space at McKinley Field for our fall 2025 sports season for soccer. That is a yearly agreement. We also have our agreement with Phase 4, which is our alternate education for disruptive youth partner for the 25-26 school year. We had an agreement through consideration for health services through interim health care. These are for students with multiple disabilities that need that health support here in the district. We have an agreement with Huddle. This is our athletic video service. They also provide online ticketing. This is an agreement for that ticketing service if Mr. Carter so chooses to utilize it. So something we've kind of talked about from time to time in the past about online or digital ticketing. Second are agreements with the day school at the Children's Institute. This is our approved private school where our students are placed at. An agreement for educational services offered by Cleveland St. Stephen's education program for the 25-26 school year. We currently don't have students there, but we maintain that agreement in case we would send students that need those services. We have a participation with school-based access program for the upcoming fiscal year. That's an agreement with the PDE, Department of Human Services. They reimburse us for students that receive Medicare and Medicaid. That agreement allows us to get those reimbursements. So that's pretty important. We have an agreement with Securely. This is cloud-based software for next school year. This is cloud-based monitoring software for district technology, really important. It also is an alert system that sort of alerts the administrators when a student is searching topics that we need to be concerned about. Last but not least, a renewal agreement with our school for the upcoming year. That's for our student information system. So that's grades and, you know, attendance and our main information system. And then we have our confidential, Act 93 confidential secretary evaluations and our confidential weekly security report. Both were discussed in the executive session prior to this meeting. Any questions or discussion regarding any of these items for your consideration next week?
I just had that there wasn't on the Children's Institute agreement, there wasn't an exhibit A attached. Obviously, that's only based on a student is your assignment, but
Wait, say that again, sorry.
in the contract, it references that the costs are under exhibit A. I didn't see,
Oh, for the Children's Institute?
yeah.
Oh, you're thinking of the other day. Let me take a look at that.
Oh, is it? Okay, I couldn't find it. Maybe it wasn't loading.
Okay.
I'll look again, thanks.
Is it there?
Oh,
Okay. Okay, that's good.
So.
I have one quick question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that this got brought up, the McKinley field. Is there a way to get an actual contract? Because I do have to agree, this looks like. What did I write? Like a form that was filled out on a napkin.
That,
Oh, but it's not.
I mean, there's like,
numerous meetings with them, that's the, I mean, that's as. I mean, that was the final, I mean, we can always go back and.
even if we draft it and then just send it to them,
I'm sure what's in here.
I mean. There's nothing there, I'll go. Like, I don't know if you've seen this.
I wasn't provided a copy.
It's truly, like, you filled out a little form, you
Like,
thought
it's
it.
a park, like,
Oh,
space.
and there's the box that has, written in it, please provide insurance. Like,
I mean, I understand exactly what you're talking about, it's like, you know, I don't think, it's not my conversations with them, there's a risk. Continuing to go back with them where we could possibly not let us use the spaces, so that's what I worry about, you know, based on.
It's being used right now.
No, it's sort of also, we have a little bit of time, you can take a look at it.
I mean, so are we, like, questions I would have just looking at this would be, it says details hours requested August 1st till October 31st, 2025. So we have exclusive usage of that during that entire time, all hours. No one else can use it. Like, those kinds of questions aren't aligned because it's not a real formal contractual agreement. Who's providing any insurance? It looks like we are, because it says, please supply a copy of insurance agreement. Oh, what
Yes.
is insurance?
Yeah, I provide a certificate of liability. If there should be any damage by our students or anything like that, then our insurance would cover that. We provide that every year, since I've been here, and we've never had a claim on it.
No, I get that, but how do we know that we would be liable for that? And how is it determined that this, like, again, because there's no times outlined in here, does that mean that at any time someone goes in during our dates of usage, that if there's destruction to the property, that they can hold us liable for that through our insurance? There's nothing in here that says they can't, because there's no contractual language. So I mean, we theoretically could try to. It doesn't mean that they'll be successful, but I just think that having it filled out on a form where we're just like reserving the auditorium for the school or something, and that's what we have our staff fill out, is a slippery slope that we're entering into a contract as an entire district.
I understand the difficulty of the conversation, but when you read this, it doesn't hold them accountable for the state of the field. And I think that's pretty important as someone who's been to the field and watched kids play on it. If we're gonna put our kids on this field, then it needs to be kept at a way that's safe for them to be on the field and maintained in that manner. So there's a lot of open interpretation in the way this is done, and I think that opens both sides up for difficult and uncomfortable conversations around who's doing what.
I think we need to be really careful with this and not lose one of the 2 soccer fields that we have access to in this town. So I definitely hear like, yes, this is like the back of the napkin contract, if you want to call it that. What I would say is it has gone this way for some time with this location and has by some miracle worked. Not saying it's right, but it's sort of a don't rock the boat thing, I think. There could be deeper conversation, but there's not gonna be a neat, succinct way through this one. Also, I know from experience on this, so, and maybe, I don't know if it means we have to contact Hills municipality, deal with them specifically, like as the borough. Or,
Private space. I mean, we. Go ahead.
No, I think I can say exactly what you were gonna say. I think since there's time, I think we can explore trying to create a more solid legal document. But I think ultimately, if the entity refuses and insists that we follow this document, at that point, the board's gonna have to make that decision. I mean, we can definitely tighten it up, we can make the terms more clear. The lines of responsibility, can be listed, but I can't force them to agree.
right, and the relationship, I would say, the current relationship as this goes that is tenuous at best. Don't so much, this is just my opinion after having multiple meetings with this entity, there's only so much you can sort of push, and there is a risk to continuing to push with this particular entity. Doesn't mean, it's just,
I know you,
that's the issue. I mean, I wish I agree 100%, Mr. Paris, I agree with everything they say. I mean, you're right on, like, there's no doubt about it. It's just, well,
I don't think that we would be able to, alter or add to or change the way, it has been working and operating. So if we're going to change the practice, I would have to assume the answer is going to be no. So if we're trying to just capture what currently exists, with more clear legal terms, possibly, but if we add things to it, if they have always operated with the district, maintaining the field during the time of reducing it, I don't know that we're gonna be able to alter that, without a lot of pushback from them.
Oh, I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be like time outlined, but there's not even language to say, at times agreed upon between the parties. I mean, there's truly no contractual language. So I mean, it says, specific use soccer field. The entire field, a certain portion of that, and again, going to the maintenance and aspects of that, those kinds of things.
Antonio.
Liable if someone goes and starts, mowing the grass, for instance, or cleaning up the field, but then that was, we thought it was being helpful and resourceful to our students, but then they're upset by that.
Seth, did you have something?
Yeah, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was trying to interrupt you, but I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I'm sure Falco does too. But I mean, this is basic. I mean, this is like renting the park for Verona or the park at Riverview. Like, it's just basic language. We're just using it for soccer. We've done this for decades. My sister, like, this has been going on since my sister and Roya were in soccer. Like, this is just basic language. It's just basic. Just, I mean, I would just let it be. I'd just let it be. That's all.
That is the will of the board, but then the will of the board also has to be mindful of our consequences to our actions.
But in the last
Us to be mindful of my
20
actions.
years, has this ever backfired? The last 20 years. Who's the gentleman that owns this? He's pretty cool. I've met him before. Jerry Chiparelli?
Yeah,
I think we'll be
that's,
all right. I think we'll be all right. I understand some repercussions, but I don't think we're going to get too many repercussions from this one. Just my 2 cents.
any other thoughts?
That's the final answer.
Yeah, we're very well of the board here. You want me on behalf of Falco work on it, or is everybody okay, just kind of letting it ride? Where are we? I mean, certainly the points are what, I mean, you're 100% correct. No, I don't disagree with you. Where do you want us to move here as a board, guys? I need a little direction.
Or at least like internally evaluating what we need to do to make sure that it's followed. What do we need to make, like, what do we need to take care of? And making sure it's safe. Like, I think that is something that needs to happen. Whether we need to take care of it in whatever way is like a different conversation, but we need to know.
Yeah, I'm saying like, we draft some type of, cookie cutter kind of contract that is just protective of the district, and then present that as well to see that, yeah. I don't think it needs to be like a sit down, let's all draft it together.
Again, I would need some board guidance on this because, the impression that I have is that you're gonna make better progress, quite frankly, without involving the attorney. And if you can accomplish what your objective is by having the administration meet with him to clarify those issues, see if you can get him to agree to those put it in writing. I think if we send in anything that looks like a legal document, things could go sideways.
Could we
That's
just
the-
possibly, sorry, Falco, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was just saying, that's the impression that I have, that I wouldn't want to do anything, that would ruin your opportunity to use the bill.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that field's been used for quite a long time. I know both my kids have used it over the years since they were little, and it's just sort of been like a handshake kind of deal. It seems like you said, really rudimentary contract, but I wouldn't want to like rock the boat like others have said, like to go over the top with it. Could we possibly just have the administrators like, put together, like something really like not overly complex contract wise, but maybe just a couple more pages with some detail on it, and then have us position it to the owner of the field to just say like, hey, we're just trying to make sure all of our details are in order, make sure who's doing what, try not to make it like overly formal to him. Maybe that would be okay.
Okay, how about we work on some of the language we have, we'll review it, and we will make one more effort. But if we feel like it could go sideways and one loses face, we'll like sort of, as long as as long as you.
Yeah, like if
trust-
he like pushes back and it's like becomes a big deal, then just let it go. But if it's just like, hey, we're just trying to make sure we're all on the same page here and make it kind of casual that way.
But what are we
Let's-
trying to say? Like, what are we really trying to say? Because this is his form. This is
Yeah, we need-
this is his contract. I don't
We need to
understand where
vote,
we need to go
we
further.
don't, the other issue is that, I'm sorry to interrupt you, if we don't vote on this, next week, according to the information we had in our last meeting with them, it will go sideways, if we don't have an approved agreement. Yes, we're not voting on this, we can do stuff until the 16th.
Yeah,
We'll make an effort between now and the 16th, we have 2 weeks, that's my suggestion.
that's all, that work? Yeah, and Seth, to your point, I can do that. We can track from how many people drive and how many different entities. It's, you're sitting here, and you're talking about like rocking the boat, but again, all of the board members on this board need to be like realistic about if we're sued, if something goes wrong. Guess whose name is getting put in that complaint? And guess
But
who's
that's why we
liable?
have insurance. That's why we have insurance. I mean, the specific use is the soccer field for the soccer team.
Awesome.
Like, is that what you wanted to say? What, like,
You don't have a
what else
contract.
do we need? I'm sorry.
So how are you getting? I just don't understand how you're going to be protected if you don't have any type of agreement.
But what are we protecting against? What can we be sued for if it's our, nobody else is on that field but our soccer team? And we have insurance. Like, there's a reason we have insurance. There's nothing else it's a piece of grass. I'm just not understanding why I understand why you want to have contractual agreements. This seems pretty contractual. Hey, you're going to use the specific use soccer field. Give me $800. And, will we square? Please supply your insurance. Like, this is basic stuff for renting. I mean, when I rent out a park for my kid's birthday party, do I need to have like a legit contract?
You're not representing an entire district.
Yeah, but it's $800. Like, what? Like, what can we be? What can we be sued for?
There's a host of things. Maintenance and upkeep. If people are using it when they're not supposed to be, and is that us being liable? Is that the park owners being liable? Is there a disruption to the park? Could they say that the maintenance that we do to the park is disruption? Because that's not what they intended for their property that they own. I mean, there's a.
But we've been doing this for decades, and it's been the same owner for decades. Like, I don't understand. Like, why don't we just say, hey, we're gonna use the field on these dates. We assume the liability for this. I mean, they're right. Like, you're just gonna open up a can of worms. Why? If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I've only been threatened to be sued twice in my life, and both were Mr. Paris. So I'm not super worried about being sued. We use this field. Some people are just, we have issues with the contract, but it's a community. We just use the field and it's okay. Not everything has to be awful or worst case scenario, or we just use the soccer field and the kids have a place to play. That's my will as the board member, is to leave it the heck alone, but I'm saying that.
Where are we at? You want us to just make an effort and try to have another discussion with them before the 16th? Is everybody okay with that, or just leave it alone?
It's something that.
Some saying no. Okay, so where are we? I just need to know, because we have 2 weeks to get something together, we're going to, so.
And
I say
also,
leave it alone.
I don't know why they brought this up initially as an issue. I support it as an issue because I think that it is an issue, but I don't know why we have to be upset at it being brought up as a concern.
We're upset that we're still talking about it. Bringing it up is fine, we're still talking about it, we're all saying this is how it's gone for years. Our kids have played there. That's why people are getting upset, is because we're saying the same things over and over and still talking about it. Wait, no, that's why I'm upset, I don't want to speak for everybody else.
I don't want us to direct.
Go for it.
I kind of wanted to wait for Erin to come back, because I think she's more invested in this topic, but, I think we should leave it. I don't see a problem with it. I mean, we have insurance to protect ourselves. Let's move on. Let's not, it sounds like we're dancing around very, just leave it.
Anyone online? Leave it or give it a try. Either way is fine with us.
I don't have any, involvement in who, with this contract as far as dealing with the person who, has written this form. But I get the impression from people that have spoken to this individual that we are at risk of losing a field that we absolutely need for our soccer team. I should get, I completely understand. So I or it doesn't make sense. I just, we don't have a lot of choice.
Brian and Jen.
I mean, I found to like move away from this contract. Everybody else look at how it things that we can fix.
I didn't catch all of what he just said, but I mean, I feel like if we're worried that it's going to irritate him and that we could possibly lose a space that we've been using forever and we desperately need because we have so little field space as it is, I would probably not rock the boat. And if something happens, then I think we have enough insurance and legal help in our corner to make something right if need be. Brian, your thoughts?
There you go. We'll let it go. I'm cool with that. If obviously good, I'm good.
Yeah, I have no thought. This is ridiculous.
Okay. Okay.
But I just want to make clear, in an ideal world, as attorneys, yes, we would like to have more clear terms. But in a practical way, it doesn't sound like that's going to be possible. So again, can we make it work? Can we defend if something happens? Obviously, we'll do our best to do right by the district, but,
Yeah, those are, I mean, those are good points.
yeah.
They really are. I mean, you can't refute that, but, so we're letting it ride. We're letting it ride. Letting it ride. Is everybody okay with letting it ride? Yes. Okay.
Let it ride.
Okay, guys. Wherever we move forward is fine.
Can I ask a quick question about the huddle thing real quick?
Yeah.
Is that just for like ticketing on the whole, like for all? Because I know that like a year ago or so, maybe more than that, 2 years ago, I can't remember now, when Corey was still here, we were looking at another vendor for like online ticketing and all that stuff. So I guess is that what this the equivalent is, I guess, from Huddle? Because I know we have Huddle for other services too.
We've kind of moved at Mr. Gardner's direction towards Huddle, which I think is a good choice for the district. This is just agreeing to add online ticketing if we so choose. It has to be done thoughtfully. So this will give Mr. Carter the ability to do that and kind of go down that path and figure out if it's a good fit for us and what sports and all of that. So, okay.
Okay.
So no go fan. And a no go fan, all Huddle now, all Huddle. Okay, so to like, go fan was with NFHS, and you kind of moved everything towards Huddle because most of the sports teams and coaches utilize that more than the other campuses.
Said so many letters together, you know, I did.
Sorry, NFHS is what we have an agreement with those cameras, but now we've moved to Huddle for those, because it can
videotape kids and then kids can use it for their like
Sounds.
videos to send to colleges and like all this stuff.
Great. Thank
It
you.
has like suites of, you know.
So wait, but hold on, sorry, you just confused me then. We're still
Sorry.
live streaming on NAPHS like other high schools do, but using Huddle for ticketing and like film and all that, right?
Yes. We
Okay,
can move to Huddle for the live streaming as well eventually, as long as we don't sever the contract, even if we don't use any NHS at the time, we can move over to the Huddle service. once we
because I
get it
know
all.
I think a lot of high schools can use them both. You know, I mean, like having Huddle for sure for film and for teams and all that stuff is definitely great.
Yeah,
But from a streaming perspective, I know most people, it seems like the streaming stuff on NAPHS is like more widely used. So I don't know. That's why I just wanted to.
Still streaming with NFA.
Got it. Okay.
Considering online ticketing. If we
Okay,
want
thank
to-
you.
Yes, you have no specific plan yet. Okay. Can I switch gears to the government contract? Sure.
Okay. The easy one is number 11 needs to be revised. It says that, we're starting, the commencement of this shall start on the first day of April. But the clause right above it says that it commences July 1st. So I think that was just an easy fix.
Okay, so that's number,
11.
okay.
And is there a reason that we're doing a 3-year contract with them, or like just locking in a rate for 3 years then?
Yeah, it's cheaper. I believe over the 3 years. It's the silver.
Sorry, I'm looking at the securely agreement and the date is 7/8/25.
Allington. He's on number 11, you said?
Yeah,
Number 11.
no, number 11. It's the,
So let's say April and extend through June 30th, 2028. He's saying it should be first day of July. Is it July, August? Or number 11 on that contract, Sheila?
Number 11 is securely.
No,
number 11 is in the contract.
on the Covington contract, number 11 on the list is.
I was doing the same thing.
No, yeah, yeah, not number 11 in
I
the,
know.
items.
Pause 11.
On the actual Covington contract agreement,
Number
He can, I'll have him adjust that because we were originally meeting with him. And I asked him to send us a contract and then I asked him to update it and that must have been missed. So I apologize. Yeah, it is, it's July, so.
Okay, and number 1.
Is it possible to negotiate this $13,000 preventative maintenance? Because they were saying that the preventative maintenance would be for oil changes and routine servicing. I don't think I can get full $12 a year to keep that way, but that's also not counting in the fuel. The district is still responsible for all of the fuel costs.
So
In talking with, Mr. McDowell, his normal rate is 1,500 a month. So I was able to negotiate him down to that rate.
I'm just like thinking because we're a mile long, like, you know what I mean, like, it's a mile to a mile and a half between the high school and Vernon. So I mean, the distance is like not substantial for them to be traveling.
Right.
Or you pay wear and tear on a vehicle for an entire year or whatever.
I'm gonna buy a duck tonight.
I can talk.
I can
I can pass.
I can give him some,
you can ask.
yes, Yes.
We will make an effort. Anything else on that agreement?
I didn't get my comments to you today, but I will send them to you tonight or tomorrow, so don't make your call until I send it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Muscanti.
And please remember, agreements to contracts are, that either been reviewed or subject to review by our solicitor. Any other comments, discussions in that? Any agreements, contracts, resolutions? Okay, onward, board governance. There are essentially two items here. First of which is to approve the attendance to the PSBA Leadership Conference on October 19th and 24th, as well as the delegate assembly at Cali Garden Resort in northeastern Pennsylvania. Our PSBA delegate, Mr. Antonio Paris, has volunteered to attend. Any discussion on this item, or are there any other interested board members that's to attend and for Ms. Paris to attend the delegate assembly?
No, thank you for going.
Thank you, Mr. Paris. Second is our annual appointment for school board treasurer as per section 404 of the school code, current school board treasurers list. Ray Sadowski. Any questions on either of these items? Okay. Personnel. Few items for your consideration next week. We have approval of the girls soccer assistant coach, a girls basketball coach, the resignation of one of our teachers. We have a placeholder for 2 elementary teachers, 1 special education teacher, and 1 junior, senior high school history, social studies teacher. We don't have the resume and the information in because we're almost to the end of those. We will have that information for you by the June 16th meeting. Final interviews and lessons are finishing up in the next 2 days or day. And information will be provided to you at that point in time. We also have our yearly federal programs coordinator appointment and homeless liaison, both of which next year will be conducted by Ms. Jamie DeRochers. Thank you. Finally, we have our usual precision substitutes. Any questions regarding any of these items?
Just to clarify, because I'm looking at the public side of the agenda, is there a number 8 and 9 or no?
No.
Okay, they were left blank and I just wasn't sure if I was missing something.
I think what she was doing is like maybe placeholders for those teachers and things like that, but it'll be organized how it usually is in the voting meeting with 1B, it'll be all laid out exactly according to the order on the agenda for the 16th.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Student life. We move into student life. We have RABA's budgetary outline for the upcoming year, as well as 7 of our model UN trips. We're doing this through Comply. Mr. Kudasek and Ms. Zatowski are working on a more proactive digital approval process through our HR software. And this was our first venture into that, and it worked really well. We're really happy. It's going to make the process more efficient. So that's why you see every one of those trips on there ahead of time, because we have a much more efficient approval process. And we're going to continue to utilize that. So that's going to be really helpful. Any questions on student life items, these student life items?
I just wanted to make a note that your boosters still missing for some sports. I think this is like the same thing we had happen last year, some people did. That information to West so.
Oh, yeah.
And there's one this year doesn't say what they're planning to expand,
That's
which is, we've had that issue
Yeah.
in the past. I just wanted to make sure it was on the record.
That's what we have as of
Yes,
today.
right, and it's not technically due till.
Yeah, you can still have issues, for sure. Then let's see. Did you make a point? Anything else?
Yeah, so as I'm looking at the Rava, like, um, between varsity soccer, football, and wrestling and cheer, nothing, like, some of them tell you what their expenses are, some of them tell you what the revenues are, but nothing is very fluid. Like, I don't know what their actual expenses versus their expenditures are. It, shouldn't this be slightly more uniform? Like, what am I looking at?
It is a separate entity, correct? Like they have their own bank accounts and everything. So
It is.
we just approve it because it's using our name, our school district, correct?
Correct.
So that's probably why stuff that they don't have, I don't think that they have to provide us with, like their, I don't know.
But by policy, we have them give us like sort of an overview, so at least we have. Well, not oversight because it's not our entity, but we at least know. You know, we have a general understanding. I think the reason why that's in the policy is so we have kind of an understanding of what's happening over the
I
course
get
of.
it. Like, I don't want specifics, but I mean, we should have specifics as far as like, what is your expenditures versus your revenue? Like like, I think I would be curious to see that between everybody, because I just see them listing all these things, and if we're signing off and voting on it, like, why wouldn't we know what their expenditures and the revenues were? That's just my thought.
Good call. Anyone else? Can we get that information to our? President. Okay. Finally. We have our, we'll be asking your approval of May 5th and May 12th study session voting meeting minutes respectively. These meetings are already recorded and available on our district YouTube channel. Are there any additions, omissions, and changes that anyone has? Okay. I'm going to our second hearing citizens, this is a meeting for all school related topics. If you'd like to speak, sign in, come to the microphone, state your name and address, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Keep in mind, the board does not typically respond to public comment or rather to in consideration of future governance. Also, realize that all comments and meetings are recorded. Hello, I'm just gonna put the time on when. Sorry, go ahead. Stop.
Oh, nothing. Sorry.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna put a timer on, not just the thing is done, okay? Thank you. Please.
It's really high for me, because I'm short.
If you bend it over, it kind of goes down towards
That's okay.
your mouth, maybe. I don't know.
So thank you guys for going through all of that budget stuff. It was, a lot. So anyway, I acknowledge that the budgeting task is super complicated. I think it's extra complicated because we're such a small district. Dr. English, I can appreciate, that you mentioned that our district is really bare bones. As I was going through the detailed budget at home, to me, was one thing that was a little bit disheartening was the tax increase and a decrease in some of the line items that are important to me as a taxpayer. One of those being special education and another one being athletics and activities. So to me, a huge part of the, obviously education is number one. I think you guys have all, made that very, very clear in everything that you've said. But a huge part of the educational experience, I think that everyone has experienced over their time in school is outside activities and athletics. And as you guys have mentioned, I don't think inflation's going anywhere. I know it's difficult to be on board that raises taxes. No one wants to be the person raising a cost for other people, especially in this kind of environment where all of our costs are rising. But your costs are also rising. So as a taxpayer, when I see the school district's cost rising, I understand that my taxes may also have to be raised.
But one of the things that I want to see out of that is what is the value? And the value to me is when I go to other districts and I see like the wonderful things they have for athletics, I'd like to see that for our kids. And I know we do the best we can. I know that we stretch every penny the best that we can. And I can see that through all the things you guys are saying. So I want to just be supportive and tell you what's important to me and some of the people that I talk to. Thank you guys for what you do. But you know, to me, if you're going to increase taxes, I'd also like to see some consideration given to some of those line items that really benefit our kids. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the second hearing? It's better than it being too hot. It's better than it being too hot.
Paula Tomlinson, 234 Third Street. I would not be afraid of the people at Wade McKinley. I would be aware that Penn Hills Municipality owns that building. That gentleman does not. He's a director. It used to be run by a bunch of women. My mom, I went to school there, and then it was taken over by a wonderful group of women from the community. So he's more of a director, but he's also on the planning commission for Penn Hills. He's also an insurance agent. So I think there's an opportunity for, he needs to see it from our point of view. What if a kid would get hurt, or if somebody's up there walking a dog and a dog, I don't know, there's a reason that should be, and he's only taken over in the last couple of years. But for the safety of our kids, now, I don't know what Twin Boroughs has in on paper with him, and it's not him, it's William McKinney Community Center. But I think there shouldn't be as much fear, and if you Google him, you'll find out a lot more. You know, I mean, like, he's a businessman, but, number two, thank you again for all of your work on the budget. It's amazing. When you do the math, it's the $386,000, it's 386 per kid, $386 per kid. And what is that 2.2? What's that gonna go up in our taxes? Less than $386. So I appreciate it, Mr. Leisure, you know, saying, you know, you understand when you pay a little bit more to live in a community because you have a good school district. Our real estate, if we all wanna leave after our kids graduate for whatever reason, you know, we're gonna get our money back. But, so I don't have an issue with tax increase. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your attendance this evening. Remember, we have the open. Usually we have 2 weeks in a row. The open is next week. Our next meeting is June 16th. A big part of that meeting is adopting the final budget. And so we'll see you on June 16th. Ms. Garabay, motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned. Have a great night. Administrators, thanks for hanging in there.